How do I recover data from my presumably dead hard disk? I have a Seagate ST3500620 as Barracuda 7200.11 hard disk. SATA 500 GB 7200 spindle speed. I've used this disk for about 2 years now. But today it happened that my computer wouldn't wake up from sleep state. I hard turned off my computer, and after turning it back on, I couldn't load the system, and after some time of waiting a message came up that OS can't be loaded from the network. Checking my BIOS settings, I can see that disk is not recognized by it. I unplugged it, put in another disk which got recognized just fine. Then I tried connecting faulty disk to a different computer via USB, because I have a SATA USB dock for a portable Seagate, but it didn't get recognized by the system either. I also run disk management in case disk wasn't partitioned or anything, so it would be recognized but not displayed in Explorer. No luck either. Disk doesn't show up anywhere. So my conclusion is that this disk is now officially dead. Rip my working friend, but I'd still like to recover more than valuable data from it. Bank certificate is just one of them. How can I do anything to get to this disk's data? Is there any software that can actually bypass BIOS and access a device directly? Is that at all possible on an everyday machine? Should I start thinking of a data recovery service provider that would do it for me and recover valuable data? Additional notes. Disk physically isn't completely dead because on power up it spins up, heads get positioned, by the sound of it. Network-related boot is most likely initiated by computer BIOS, because boot priority is HD, floppy, network. If your device is not being recognized by the system, that might indicate a bad controller. That's good, because it means your data is likely still safe on the disks themselves. But it's also bad, because you'll need to use a data recovery firm that can replace the controller in a cleanroom environment. But at least there is a relatively high chance of their success.
This is worth trying before paying for recovery or opening up the drive. Something that has worked for me is to place the drive in a Ziploc type bag and remove as much air as you can. Place the drive in a freezer for several hours. If possible, connect the drive to a known good system with a USB adapter or external case. Put case in bag too, and see if you can read. This has worked a number of times for me. Sometimes a longer stay in freezer has helped. Others have found this works. Freeze drive. A quick Google found May videos and other articles. IBM server training used to mention this as a fix to try.
Sounds like you've been bitten by the BSY bug. The drive event log location has been set to an invalid location by an off by 1 error in the firmware. This contains a reference to your model being affected. At one time, you could send the drive into Seagate and they'd revive it by updating the firmware. You'd end up paying only for shipping. Hopefully they're still doing that. If not, you can do it yourself. Another link. If you've got more of these drives, get the firmware updated while they're still operational. Update. Here are some additional links. This one seems to be a good general introduction that discusses the cabling/voltage requirements for communicating with the drive. This one has more details/discussion.
My Seagate external drive started failing 2 weeks ago. It got very warm, so I unplugged it and let it cool, and it would work fine again for a couple of days. Eventually I began to hear clicking and knew mechanical failure was near. I managed to archive what I needed most from it before it completely quit and refused to be recognized. I'd heard about the freezer trick for years but never believed it. At this point I figured, what have I got to lose, so I put plastic kitchen wrap around the drive and let it sit in the freezer overnight. To my surprise, after a couple of minutes, the drive's folders began to show up one by one. I immediately began copying files to a fresh drive, which worked great for about 15 minutes, until the HD warmed up and quit again. Seeing that temperature is a factor, and having heard that you can do this trick 4 or 5 times before it totally fails, I brought a portable refrigerator/freezer into my office so that the drive could sit in it and stay cold on my next attempt. Unfortunately, all I've gotten so far is an install new software prompt, but it doesn't see its software to install itself. Had I been able to keep it cool on my first attempt, I might have been able to recover everything, but I'll never know. So the freezer trick worked for me, but not long at all. For the first time ever I'm considering a cloud backup service.
please consider liking and subscribing.